Perf- Perfect. Thanks, John. So welcome everyone. We're super excited to have you all on this webinar for how Microsoft Teams can support business continuity. Sorry, tongue twister for this afternoon, and companies working remotely. Just to do some quick introductions here so you know who is speaking with you today. My name is Brett Hensley. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing for TMC. I handle all of our onboarding of new clients to TMC and manage our sales and marketing teams. John, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is John Hoyt. I'm the Solutions Architect here at TMC. I've been with TMC for 13 years and working remote from home for 8 years now.
Perfect. Thanks, John. That's very important, as obviously that's the focus of this webinar and training today. So just some quick housekeeping items. First of all, thank you all for joining us today. We just want to give out a message that we hope all of you and your loved ones are safe and feeling well. We know this is a hard time for many of you on a personal and professional level, so TMC just wants to offer our best wishes to everyone. With that said, I did mention it early on before we started the recording. Always question number one on every webinar. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. We will send out a link after the call is completed so you can rewatch everything we taught you today about using Microsoft Teams and working remotely, so you can share this recording with the rest of your employees and review everything one more time. We do have everyone muted just for the purpose of not having interruptions during the webinar. But if you have any questions, please insert them into the chat. If we have time, we will try to answer the questions that we receive on the call today. Otherwise, we will make sure we reach out to you directly and answer those questions via email or in a follow-up call. Next, you will notice we are using Zoom today for the webinar. This is on purpose as we're going to be jumping in and out of different functions of Microsoft Teams, such as video calling and sharing documents. So we want to be able to show you those features without having to stop the meeting or switch applications. Zoom is strictly a web and audio conferencing tool, while Teams is also that, but more of a collaboration tool to improve your internal communication within your company. John will be showing you that here shortly and can kind of go over some of those differences. Next, there is a free 6-month trial of Teams available to everyone. You can sign up through TMC, and we'll have a slide on that at the end of the presentation. Just wanted to mention it at the beginning in case anyone has to drop off early. And lastly, we also want to announce today that there will be additional webinars and trainings on Teams in the coming weeks. We'll go over the agenda for today shortly, but just a heads up, there will be additional webinars and trainings on each Wednesday at the same time, 1 p.m. Pacific. So with that, John, can you advance the next slide? Perfect. So we know we have a great mixture of attendees on this call today. We have current TMC clients who have been with us for many years and own many of the products you see here on the right-hand panel, like Teams and Office 365, Dynamics ERP or CRM solutions, or Azure hosting for their infrastructure in the cloud. We also have many companies joining us who are in the process of having discovery calls or demos and assessments with TMC over these same products. And finally, we have brand new people on the call who have never worked with us. So welcome to you all. Just a real quick overview of who TMC is for all of you that are new to us, and for all of you who aren't aware of all the support and services we provide. TMC is a gold certified Microsoft partner and headquartered in Los Angeles, California. We have team members all throughout the US, however, and support our clients here in the US and internationally. We are experts on Microsoft Dynamics, and that's where our roots are, but we also provide support for our clients with all the other Microsoft Cloud business solutions like Office 365, Power BI, Power Apps, and of course, Microsoft Azure Cloud. Many of our clients are going through the digital transformation journey at the moment. So TMC is, here to help you provide those services to our clients as they make that transition. This call today will go over working remotely and using Teams, but this is just a piece of that puzzle. So if you're interested or need support in any of these other solutions mentioned on the page, please feel free to reach out to us. With that being said, I'm not going to waste any more of your time and going to turn over things to John to discuss today's agenda and training on Microsoft Teams. So John, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Brett, I appreciate that. And our topics today, I want to start with really some basics just on working from home. As I said earlier, I've been doing it for a little over 8 years now, full time. So I've gone through some of the teething pains and some of the learning curve, and I want to share some of what I've learned about that with you, how to really make the most of this situation. We want to talk about Teams specifically as a communication tool, but as Brett mentioned just a moment ago, it really is far more than just a replacement for instant messenger doing chat or conference calls, or even something like Zoom where you're doing a video call. We'll go through what those capabilities are today at kind of a high level, and we'll cover those in more depth in our future sessions as we continue to explore Teams and the rest of the Microsoft Cloud offerings. So with that, I want to go through just kind of the basics today in the Teams world itself, how to get your feet wet, so to speak. Remove some of that fear of the unknown if you've not yet experienced Teams, or maybe show you a couple of key pieces inside Teams if you have tried it. There is a learning curve to using it, but with that learning curve, of course, comes along all of the benefits and competencies that we can use within the team space to really enhance that ability to work remotely, but not work in isolation. We're going to do a live demo for you of the Microsoft Teams tool itself. And as Brett mentioned, that's why we're doing our webinar today in Zoom. Our future webinars will be in Teams, however, so we'll keep with the Microsoft theme there. And then we'll wrap up with next steps, what we're going to be talking about next on the webinar side, but also what you as an individual or the representative for your company or organization, what steps you can start to take if you're not yet involved within the Teams environment. So let's start with just kind of the basics of working from home. And the first suggestion that I would make, if possible, try to define an appropriate workspace for yourself. You want a place where it can be quiet, a place where you can think. So something like the kitchen table, dining room table. In some cases, that may be the only option that you have, but if you can, try to dedicate some workspace inside your home where you can really focus on the work part and treat that just like you would treat that as your office space inside the company if you're going to work on a regular basis. Next, dress the part. There are a lot of temptations to fall into some bad habits, and I don't want you to do that. For myself, it's something that I've done to continue the feeling of going to work. And that feeling of going to work, it means dress the part. Showered, shaved, I'm wearing my logo golf shirt like we all wear at TMC. Try to put yourself in that mindset of I'm at work, I'm not at home, just kind of doing things the way I would do free form. With that, if you can, try to set a schedule for yourself, and not literally perhaps, but mentally, clock into work at the beginning of the day. Focus on work for the appropriate period of time, and then clock out at the end of the day. One of the dangers of working from home is that boundary between work and home life gets either grayed a little bit or dissolved completely. So if you can clock in and clock out mentally, you can maintain that separation between my work life and my home life. Now, part of that also means that when I'm, air quotes, at work during the day, I have to let my wife know, don't ask me to change the laundry. Don't ask me to unload the dishwasher. I'm working. I'm not here to help you out with household chores or take some of that stress off of you. Do that when I get home from work. after I've clocked out for the day. Now, my wife also works from home, so we have learned how to adjust that. And we almost have a daily ritual of, goodbye, honey, goodbye, love, I'll see you at the end of the day. We'll cross paths in the kitchen, of course, but we're trying to maintain that professional life versus personal life. So just be careful of letting those kind of blur together. This next piece, this is really key, especially for you that are kind of forced into this work remote mode right now without a lot of planning, a lot of thought. Your business, for whatever reason, has told you to go home and work from home. That was going to require all of us to be a little more patient than we normally would in terms of our interactions with our colleagues, the promptness that we might have expected in replies. When you work side by side in two offices, it's real easy to stick your head around the corner and say, hey, Brett, can you help me out with this real quick? I may not be able to get that same immediacy of response, though, when we're working remotely. So you'll see inside Teams, I'll simply reach out to Brett with a chat that says, hey, you got a minute? And I want to talk about whatever my subject might be. And I really should stop saying got a minute, because it should really be, do you have 5 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes? I need to be more accurate in how much time I'm going to request. And if he pushes back and says, nope, I need you to give me half an hour, I'm trying to finish something up, okay, that's what it's going to be. So be patient with one another, be respectful to one another, and you'll find that that empathy with one another goes a long way in smoothing out some of the kinks that we're all going to run into as we go through this transition. Last, you are working from home. That means you're working in isolation, but don't allow yourself to feel like you're now isolated. And the best way to do that is to maintain or even increase your kind of regular communication habits and behaviors. And you'll see as we go through the demo how Teams can really help you do that on a variety of different levels. We're going to do our best to break down the physical distance that now exists between us as colleagues and coworkers and try to get a little bit closer together. And we've got a number of tools, like I said, that we'll be able to show you as we go through that. So with that, let me talk a little bit about Teams itself. And I want to do a bit of a kind of compare and contrast here as well. So it's part of the Office 365 family of products. We're all familiar with Outlook and Excel and Word, PowerPoint, Visio, whatever. Office 365 incorporates all of those tools, but so much more. And that includes the Teams functionality. And I want to emphasize that this is more than just a chat tool or a conference call tool. We can do all the functions that we had in Instant Messenger. We can use it like a Zoom tool and have our meetings via conference call. But it really is designed to allow a greater level and duration, really, of communication and collaboration. This is an ongoing, durable kind of tool, unlike the recording we do today for for the Zoom, for this webinar. That will exist as a concrete event. You'll see when we get inside the Teams itself that it really is a long-lived activity. And it starts to become kind of second nature to do all of my activities there in Teams, because it is going to keep that archive, that piece of history for me. So as we go through and talk about the basics, when we get into the tool and actually walk through the steps, there's a number of different ways that we can get to Teams. This is part of Microsoft's larger initiative to be platform and operating system and browser agnostic. You can get Teams from, there's a Windows client. You can run it inside of Outlook. You can work with Teams inside the other Office tools like Excel and like with Word. If all you have access to is a browser, then no problem. We can open Office 365, and one of your apps, when you get to your Office 365 homepage, is going to be Teams. Launch in Teams from there. There's also Team apps for the phone, for the desktop, the tablet. whatever device you have, whatever platform you want to bring to this, no problem. We can get that for you in the Teams world. So with that, let's talk about what we're going to do as we create our first meeting here inside of Teams. The basic steps, really very simple. You need to create your team. This is going to be comprised of yourself, colleagues that you have access to their emails, and invite other people in if you need to. It is truly a collaborative tool. Once the team has been defined, the group of people that we're going to be working with, and that team could be maybe one large team that encompasses your entire organization. Everybody belongs to that one, so company meetings and all hand notices, etc., everything goes to that company-wide team. But you can also create smaller teams, teams just for the sales group or for human resources, or just for a specific project that you're going to be working on. It's just a matter of name the team, invite the people that you want to have, create the resources you want to share. We are linked to SharePoint. We can also link to OneDrive, but we will need to get your shared documents off of your local computer and up onto a cloud platform somewhere so that the team can work together with that document. And we're going to show you an example of that in just a moment. And then in other instances, one of the great features in a conference room meeting is I've got a whiteboard available. We can sketch things out, we can erase, we can change, we can annotate the meeting as we're having it. And Microsoft Teams has that same digital whiteboard capability, and we'll be able to save the outputs and keep that as part of the records within that larger archive of team chats and files and activities, etc. And with that, let me go ahead and bring up my teams, and we will talk a little bit specifically and look at the software live. So let me start first by just pulling it up inside the browser. And as I said, when you access this, you're going to start by going into your Office 365 environment. So I'm logged in, I'm authenticated as part of this domain. I've got my resources, I've got my access, etc. And Teams will be just one more link for me inside that list of apps on my Office 365 homepage. And I'll just show you briefly here in the browser the kind of basic look and feel of the Teams unit itself. And then we'll dive deeper into this in just a moment because I want to work there from the desktop version of Teams. But again, to participate, all I need is a device that can support a browser and access to the internet, and I will always be able to connect to my teammates wherever we're going to be working on. In addition to that, I can also pull up Teams on my phone. Let me get logged in, and now I've got my Teams interface wherever I need to go. So the availability of Teams across all these different platforms can, as I mentioned a while ago, though, of course, also mean you are always available. So you may want to choose to set some times that you don't use or don't look at the phone version of it or something. But that's going to be something available. And depending on the activity that you're participating in, that may be the best tool to use. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. So let me now minimize the browser and pull up the actual Teams. Okay, very similar look and feel, same layout that we saw on the browser. And the reason, of course, for that is we want to minimize learning as you transition from one device to another, one operating system to another. Teams will always look and feel the same for you. So that learning curve, try to keep that as shallow as we can. The first thing that I want to talk about, because it's the question that most people ask immediately, and it's not always real obvious where to find this. Where are my settings? And they're going to be up here. I'm logged in, so I can see my photo. If I click on that, then I'll get my controls for how I want to work with Teams itself. At the moment, my status is set to in a meeting. That will tie in if I have activities in my calendar, either in my Teams calendar or in my Outlook calendar. Because I'm linked together with the same email address, I'm all part of the same Azure Active Directory in the background, then okay, I can have that cross-platform, cross-program visibility. Teams knows based on my Outlook calendar what my status is and sets that status available automatically. If I need to, though, I can change my status, put a message up, I'm in a meeting, I'm available, whatever it might be. What I'm really looking for here, of course, is my settings. And the settings that most people will want to find immediately are actually going to be down here under the devices. This is where you assign which camera do I want to use. This is where you assign what microphone, what speakers you want to use, etc. You can see my camera there is previewing for me what it's going to look like with the camera that I have selected. Now, as I said, I've been doing work from home for about 8 years now, and I've invested in some good equipment. I have a good high definition webcam, it has good stereo microphone, etc. For those that are making the transition very rapidly to work from home, you won't have that luxury. You're going to need to use the devices that you currently have available to yourself. My suggestion here would be test your different devices. You may discover that you have, for example, your best camera is actually on your cell phone. And I may want to use the cell phone for doing my video calls. And the microphone on my laptop might be very, very good, and my colleagues can hear me just fine. It's got good noise canceling, etc. But maybe it's not the best sounding speakers. And so maybe I want to use a pair of plug-in headphones for audio. Maybe I've got something like a Bluetooth speaker that I can connect to my laptop or my tablet, and I can use that for the audio. And that goes back to that idea of you want to make sure you've had a chance to test all these out and practice with them before you're asked to join your first team meeting live. Have gone through these steps and figure out what's going to work best for you. So that's the settings tab. And again, to access that, just come up to your picture where you're logged in, hit the drop down, and go to settings. Now, you'll notice next to my picture up there, I've got another drop down. I actually belong to multiple teams. I've got different logins. So right now I'm logged in as TMC, but I'm also part of my wife's group, the Hawaii Client Gifts team. And I can simply log in, log out, move from one group to another as I need to. Same interface between those. Second most important topic inside Teams is going to be what's available down in the help. And that's in the lower left corner for you. And you can select any of these options. It's going to take you to the same place. So I'll start with the help topics. I think Microsoft has done an incredible job here of making a wealth of information available right inside the product. And I would encourage you, as you're getting more and more familiar with Teams, spend time in here, whether it's looking at training classes, whether it's running through the facts, the FAQs, or the how-tos, or simply doing a search. I want to know something about, I hear channels. What are channels? And it'll take you to that result for you. So a wealth of information available to help you as you get started and as you get more advanced. You can learn more things. And that's kind of the idea behind the training section. These are going to be videos. Either watch them and simply absorb the information through the video. In other cases, there may be some interactions. You'll go through a little lesson or a little exercise. There are tons of topics available, and I would really suggest, as you have some free time, if you have any free time in your day, go through this, learn how to manage these. We'll be doing some additional training around some of these topics, but these are available now, and you can get ahead of us if you'd like to. And then finally, from the help section, I want to talk about the what's new. This is where Microsoft is going to tell you what's been added in kind of a rolling history of updates to the product as they've moved forward in time with it. And you can see they're releasing things on a fairly regular basis, every week, every couple of weeks. they're going to continue to add more and more into this Teams piece. Okay? So from help, let's go through these different icons over here on the left-hand panel quickly. I want to talk about activity. This is very much, as I understand it, I'm not a member of Facebook, but this is kind of like my Facebook feed, and it's going to just show me everything that's going on tied to a specific team or a specific conversation, and I can navigate my way through that list. You'll see that it's a chat function. We can embed images within it. The controls across the bottom will also do things like allow me to add in files. I can share files through this tool, and once those have been shared, then we'll be able to work on them, to collaborate with them together. I can switch from the feed view to the My Activity view, and now I take a very personalized view of this. This is everything that I've contributed into Teams, different conversations, different chats, different channels, whatever it might be over time. All of that's based upon my chat history. Now, I have a chat history panel on the left-hand side that shows me all of my ongoing conversations. To create a new chat, I can simply use the little icon up next to the search command. Search would let me look through all of my open chats, things that are in process, or even things that have been archived, because I want to look for a particular word or phrase or something. We've been talking a lot about the webinar lately, of course. So now I can search through and navigate and find my way down into the Teams section itself. And this is where we start to add some differences between something like an instant messenger, where all I'm doing is chatting with people and keeping that running total of the chat. Teams allow me to group together people, and then once I've grouped them together into that team, we can work together, share documents, have phone calls, have video calls, whatever we might need. One of your activities, first thing you'll need to do, is create a team. And I would recommend you do this as early as you get an opportunity, just so you and your colleagues can start to practice with this. I can either build a team from scratch, and that's going to take me through step by step everything I need to do. Or if I have existing groups in Office 365 or an existing team, maybe I had a project team that worked on a project a couple months ago, we're going to start a new project. I could use that existing 365 team as the starting point for my new one. When you create teams, you can either create a private team where the participants need to be invited to join. And I would typically organize something that was maybe job specific, project specific, task specific, things like that would typically be set for private. Public might be something that I'm doing across the entire organization where I want everybody to join, everybody to participate. And when I set my new team to public, that new team will be visible over here on all of my colleagues' teams, and they can choose to join themselves. Or again, I can keep it private, and it's only going to be the people that I want. So I'll give it a name, some little description, and then I'll create that team. Positive feedback from the company. And now I need to go in and start adding the members that I want to include in that. So Brett Hesley is my boss. I want to make sure he gets added. Matt's my coworker. I want to make sure that he gets added. Teams verifies that they're valid addresses, everything looks good. I can now click close. And now I'm in my new team, my webinar demo. It's automatically added a channel for me called General. And within that, I can now see who's been added and other activity. This will be a running list of activity, very much like we saw earlier in the activity tab. But here, activity is restricted to just this team and the activities that relate to this team. I could create a new channel if I needed to, because we might have a subgroup that's working on, or we're going to do a test session or something. I can also create and post FAQs to my team members. What are we doing? What's been going on with it so far, etc. The Files tab will allow me to upload files either from my local computer or from a OneDrive link, SharePoint link, something like that. This will now share all of those documents with the members, the team, and we can now collaborate on those documents, whatever we might need to do. If I go back over into my Teams section, I've got the other teams that we've been working with. This is the one we built to actually practice for the webinar. But I'll point out that I have a folder here called Hidden Teams. This allows me to manage my list of teams, what's visible and what's hidden from me. I mentioned in the opening that this is a durable tool. And the activities that you create, that you share, documents that are put in, files that are shared, etc., they will remain inside of Teams. So, quick word of caution, be careful what you say about one another in this environment, because there isn't really any way to go back later and delete it. So you can save yourself some embarrassment that way. Think of it even like a public posting board, bulletin board, something of that nature, perhaps. Continuing my way down the list of tabs on the left-hand side here, Calendar allows me to see both the calendar for myself and all of the activity that I have set up inside of Teams. And you're looking at my live calendar for the week. But it also allows me, as I said, to share things from something like Outlook. So if I have appointments, meetings, things scheduled in my Outlook, even if they relate just to me, have no bearing on anybody else inside the Teams, I can still see that here. And my colleagues can see that. If they're trying to schedule me for something, they'll have visibility into my calendar, and they'll see when I've got time to book that particular meeting. If I need to schedule a new meeting, I can do that up in the top right corner. I'll just give it a title, add my required attendees, set my start and end times. By default, when we set up meetings in the Teams environment, they're set to not repeat. But if you want to set up recurring meetings, a daily check-in, a weekly check-in, monthly, whatever, you can set those recurrings up as well. Add in channels if you want to include any of your existing channels. So I could go into my webinar or my Teams and say I want the general added. That would link this meeting to that channel. Shows up in the activity for it. Members of the meeting would have access to the documents, etc. Add a location. Everything's going to be done remote now, so I won't bother putting anything there. And then finally, I could put in details of the meeting, why it's being done, topics to be discussed. Again, any attachments or things that I might want to include for that. I'm going to go ahead and close that rather than send it. I'm going to discard my changes there because I don't want to keep it. The other option, and we'll come back to this in a little bit, is the Meet Now function. This is, maybe I've had a chat going back and forth and I don't want to do that, or I just need to meet immediately to resolve some crisis that just popped up. That allows me to create the meeting, add the invite, or invite the members, and off we move. Call section. There is a pretty good telephone system buried inside of Teams. And I can make direct dial calls to any of my colleagues. I can see their status, who's available, who's not available, either do a phone call, do a video call. And this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, and I'll show you this again in my tips, but when we communicate with our colleagues, the more immediacy that we can include within that contact, the more meaningful it will be, the more it will stick. So I would encourage you, use the call function, use the video call function if that's available. It really will help to break down some of the distance that you might be feeling right now as we're all working remote and don't have that ability, as I said, to just kind of walk my way down to the hall and poke my head in someone's office. The Files tab, everything that has been shared, uploaded, downloaded, all the different documents that we have, what location they're being pulled from. Again, we're trying to turn this into a collaboration tool, and the best way to do that is to really just be able to share those different tools out. Finally, the little ellipsis button here. This is all the mores, and I can add in a variety of Microsoft tools, some of them part of the Office 365 experience already, whether that's OneNote, whether that's the stream function, whether it's a wiki function that I want to add. And there is a true wealth of Microsoft developed and third-party developed applications and tools and programs that all work with or interact with Teams. So depending on what activities you might be looking for, if I'm working in the sales area, for example, maybe I need it to connect to my Dynamics 365. I want to include that. I need a different live chat. Maybe you use Zendesk for your ticketing system and customer support. All these pieces have some interaction with and some capabilities with Teams. Some of them will be free, some of them will be subscription. All of the kind of typical Microsoft app source activities would apply in that regard. But if you need a way to extend or connect to something you're currently using, check the app source. It's a great resource for you, and we'll have lots of additional capabilities there for you. Okay, with that, let's switch and give you kind of a live presentation of how we can use the Teams to truly collaborate with one another. And I'm going to start by going back up to my calendar, and I'm going to meet now. And for the purposes of this, well, we'll leave video on. We can do video. And once I've got everything set there, my previews are done, I can join the meeting. Now, this is a Meet Now meeting, so there's nobody else here currently. That's the first thing that I need to do, is invite a couple of my colleagues to join. So I'll find Brett, and we'll invite Brett, and we'll invite Matt. And Matt, I'm not sure which one you're using, so we'll grab both of yours. And there we go. Hey, Matt. Hey, Brett. How are you guys this afternoon?
Good.
Good. Okay, we're both unmuted.
I'm good.
Wanted to pick up where we left off from our last meeting. And we had been talking about making some changes into our budget. So let me go ahead and share that document again. And I wanted to get some of the input from you guys on this. There we go, sample budget. So I'll go ahead and pop that open here. And the authentication requires that. My apology, guys, I grabbed the wrong budget. Grabbed the blank one. So let's just do one real fast. So we would have revenue from domestic. That's going to be you, Matt. Brett, as always, you get the international. And I'm going to do subscriptions. And then, of course, we want to talk about, we're going to do that for April, May, June, and July. So as this document gets placed up, we can start to work on it. Again, I can go through and put in my numbers, whatever they might be. You can add comments to individual cells as you're working on them. So and this is going to have to be revised. I can't get that to stay where I want it to stay. working with the live documents like this in the Teams environment while I've got my people online with me, and I think I may have done something wrong because I don't see them able to join in. Conversation.
Yeah. John, can you share that document?
I should be able to, yeah.
That one opens a different document. It may matter both of us document.
Yeah, let me see if I can find the document that I should be using. And this is one of the keys, is the document does need to be shared first. And I'm sharing it via my OneDrive, but I could also be sharing it with the SharePoint tool. The key, again, being that once we have this doc up, and now I can make changes here while Matt is making changes on his side, Brett's making changes on his side. The document is being continuously updated and continuously saved in the background for us. That's part of having it in OneDrive, part of having it in SharePoint. And so we can work together, just like we would do if we were inside a conference room, put the document up on the screen. I've got control of the document from my laptop, but Matt and Brett and myself can walk through the meeting. We can have the discussion that we need to have. And the document that we're working on, even though we're all remote, it's one document. We're not trading different versions back and forth or anything like that. So there are, as I said, the collaboration tools and capabilities really take Teams that step beyond something like Zoom or just using a chat function. We really want to enable that. Microsoft's vision, of course, was to have these capabilities, something that we would have the entire company adopt as part of a long-term strategy of moving to the cloud. And some of you may be well on your way down that path already. For others, of course, due to the unusual circumstances we're all facing right now, it means that you're being forced into this new world. And the message that I want you to take away from this little demo, working inside a real simple little budget where we can collaborate, change our numbers, add our comments, etc., is all those capabilities that we had in the face-to-face world of the conference room, we can continue to have that available here inside the Teams session itself.
Yeah. And John?
Yeah, Brett.
Just elaborate. You know, as people can see, I went in. I updated the hardware. We already increased it 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. Right now, I'm working on. So you can see that we increased the numbers for April based off of this Dynamics 365. We expect to come in. So as John was explaining to everyone, we can't do this live and do it as interactive meeting, discussing budgets and how they're going to change based on those sales projections.
Great. Thanks, Brett. Appreciate that. And let me go back here to the meeting full screen. And the last thing that I want to talk about real quickly while we're here, I always forget where I find this.
While John's looking as well, you should be able to see my screen behind me right now is blurred. So that is a feature if you do have some busy background in your home office or bedroom from now, you can blur it to what only focuses on you. So it's a cool feature. They do have a beach background, coffee joint backgrounds, or different areas that you can spice it up.
Great. Thank you, Brett. And the last thing that I want to bring up real quickly is the Whiteboard function. This is an app available inside of the Microsoft App Source, and I can bring up the desktop version of that. And in this case, I'm just trying to illustrate how we can use something like a whiteboard process to create a quick little process flow. We're trying to map out how we're going to handle some of our sales process going forward, what changes we might have to make. And once I have that document ready, then I can go back into my whiteboard. My paste didn't work. And say I need to create, a new process flow of some kind. So we'd start here. We're going to go to step number B. This also becomes a collaborative tool. Matt and Brett can grab a different color, blue or red or something, and they can start to add to this. So if you need to model something out, draw it out. If you have people that are very visual in nature and they don't want to look at an Excel spreadsheet, no problem. And these are just illustrations of two of the kind of tools that we have available inside the larger Teams environment. We've been real basic today. We just talked about how you can share and collaborate on something like an Excel doc. I could do that with a Word document just as easily. If we were editing a contract or a proposal together, reviewing a legal document of some kind that we had to talk about. Or the whiteboard function. And we'll be able to show you more and more of the capabilities of Teams as we move forward over the next couple of presentations for you. And with that, guys, I'll thank you very much for joining my little meeting this afternoon. And I'm going to go ahead and hang up on that meeting. And I'm now back into Teams. That takes us through the demo steps that we had wanted to go through. So let me pull the PowerPoint back up. So having gone through that, we've created our team meeting. We scheduled that meeting in Teams, either schedule in advance or do a meet now. We've talked about sharing documents, how you can collaborate, use the whiteboard tool to sketch out. I'd like to leave you with my top tips. As I said, I've been doing this for more than 8 years. I've got a little bit of experience with it anyway. Practice, practice, practice. Set up a test meeting with you and a buddy, a colleague, and just get familiar with working inside the Teams environment. Try things out. Then when you get some time on your own, go to those topics in the training and learn more. So you can really get a huge amount out of this tool, but you're going to need to put a little bit of training and education time into that as well. As part of working remotely, and we are now all forced to do so, my advice would be don't use the chat function when you can call somebody instead. We learn far more from listening to one another's voice than we do from watching one another type. In line with that, if you can do a video chat with somebody, go ahead and do so. We're going to get better with the equipment. We're going to learn how to blur our background like Brett was showing you so that we have a presentable and professional looking environment. But there's nothing that allows you to communicate better, I think, than actually seeing who it is you're working with. And the video call conferences that you can do inside Teams will certainly support that. And as I was talking about, determine what your best available equipment and devices are, and whether that's use the camera from the smartphone and a headset so that I can hear properly, or I'm connecting a Bluetooth speaker or something so that I get better audio out of my laptop. That'll take a little bit of experimentation, a little practice as well, just to get your environment all put together the way you want to get it put together. And that takes me to the end of my presentation, Brett. So let me pull the next slide up and I'll leave it with you.
There we go. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Yeah, again, I just want to kind of go over some quick next steps and things that we're still going to be providing you. I do apologize. I think there was a bit of some feedback during that last portion with the multiple mics open, so I do apologize if you had a hard time hearing me. Again, John's going to jump into some of those cool features a little deeper in the follow-up calls. But for the first next step, again, everyone is eligible for a free 6-month trial of Microsoft Teams, which includes the Office 365 subscription. So we will be sending out a follow-up email after this call, a link to our website where you can fill out a form to get signed up for that free 6-month trial. It just has some basic information required by Microsoft that we'll need, just things like your company name, address, who your administrator contact is, etc. And then once you fill that out, we will get you set up with your free trial super fast. Usually just, takes a couple hours. So we'll get that working for you. Next, as mentioned, we will be doing another webinar next week on April 1st, Wednesday again at this same time, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will have some of these new features on the right-hand side, as you can see, that John will be jumping into a little deeper, and hope to do, additional webinars for the weeks to come. Again, in that same follow-up email we'll be sending after this call, also have a link for you to register for this next webinar. There is so much, you can do with Teams. We really just scratched the surface of the capabilities in the webinar today. So really looking forward to, broadening your depth of knowledge in the Teams application. And then finally, thank you again, just everyone for attending. If you have any questions or need any help or support with your Teams trial or training, please feel free to reach out to John or myself. These are our emails. We're happy to jump on a call live in Teams with you, and kind of walk you through step by step how to use some of these features. And just want to say again, thanks for joining, and hope everyone has a great day and stay safe out there. Thank you.